the difference between knowledge and wisdom? Maybe you know a lot, but are you wise? Or if you're given a choice, will you choose to know or will you choose to be wise? Welcome to week 29 of our daily Bible devotions. This whole week, we're going to examine the book of James. Yesterday, in fact, you already watched an overview of the book of James. It's actually an epistle by the Apostle James, not the brother of John, but actually James, the brother of Jesus. And as we examine it for the rest of the week, we will see that it gives many practical tips, practical advice on how to live. And it tells us the distinction between knowledge and wisdom. So that's why actually many scholars call the book of James or the letter of James as the Proverbs of the New Testament, because it's actually a wisdom book. What is wisdom really? If we look at the introductory chapter 1, verse 16, there is a warning already from the author. It says, "Do not be deceived, brothers." That gives us a hint that actually wisdom gives us a shield against deception. Why will others be deceived? Because sometimes you know things, but that doesn't really give you the truth. See, knowing is about facts. Wisdom is about the truth. Sometimes knowing facts, they seem to tell one story when in fact the truth is another thing. You know the saying that a picture says 1,000 words. But which of those words really point you to the truth? Sometimes a scene, just a glimpse, give you a false story. Sometimes there are many things behind the scenes that you don't really know. Wisdom is really discerning the truth out of the facts that are given to you. Chapter 1, verse 22 also says, "But be doers of the word, brothers, not hearers only." So it tells us that wisdom has something to do with application. Because not just be hearers, but be doers. You have to put it into action. But I will argue that wisdom is not just about application. It's actually embodiment. Take notice of this. To know and to be wise. To know and be wise. The verbs that you use to depict knowledge and wisdom, the difference is to know is just to have it, to have knowledge, to have the facts. But to be wise, be meaning you have to embody it. You don't just apply it, you become it. It's like your whole persona, your whole person will be filled, you'll be cloaked with wisdom. You will become wise. It's not just holding it. It will envelope your whole body. It's an embodiment. It's more than an application. And my favorite is actually from verse 5. James chapter 1 verse 5 says, "But if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given him." This truth about wisdom is what I like most, because wisdom can be asked from God. That leads us to the principle that I want to emphasize really today. What principle is that? Real wisdom comes from God and embodies the truths about God. Let me repeat. Real wisdom comes from God and embodies the truths about God. What does that mean? Wisdom is not just a product of hard work. Yes, you will work for it, but most of it will come from God. Real wisdom, the godly wisdom that we want to in our faith, really comes from God. So if you think you don't have wisdom, it's very simple. Just ask God. You need to humble yourself and ask God. Acknowledge that you don't have it and pray, "Lord, I need wisdom. God, give me wisdom." And it says in James chapter 1 verse 5, God gives generously without reproach. And ask yourself, if it comes from God, how much do you really know about God? See, that's where the work comes in. You need to know God because you will ask Him for wisdom. How much do you know about Him? It's very important, especially if you say that you believe in God. Or if you say that you don't believe in God, still, it's important that you know God. Because if you don't believe in God, or if you reject the truth or the idea about God, then you should be able to know what you're rejecting, right? You can't reject something that you don't know. Why would you refuse it? You don't even know it in the first place. Correct? See, there are many people who say that they're atheists, that they're agnostic, but really they're just pretending to be smart. If you ask them, okay, you don't believe in God, why? They can't give you a proper answer because they don't really know what they're rejecting. You have to know first the idea, the concept of God before you reject it. And sometimes they pretend to be smart by saying that they're atheists or agnostic, but in fact, they're just lazy. They just don't want to know God, and they just don't want the whole idea of it because they know that God will require them some things. Because wisdom, as we mentioned a while ago, it's more than application, it's an embodiment. They don't want that. They just want to keep living their life the way it is. And you see, there is no wisdom in that. Because what if you're living your life in the wrong way? What if you're heading to the wrong direction already? Don't you want to know the truth? Don't you want to be led to a better direction? Don't you want God to lead your life? If you already know that there's a better thing than what you already know, there's a better thing than what you already have, there's a better person that you can be than what you are right now, isn't it wise to choose that for what you have? James 1:5 makes it very clear. You don't have the wisdom, simply ask God.